Fuck. I got one line. I panic every time. I'm sorry.
Your name, baby, your name. That's so good.
Okay. Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Allison.
Welcome to another episode of Simply Sapphic. A little disclaimer, if you're watching on YouTube, ignore the sign behind me. We rebranded after recording this episode. Hello and welcome to our very, very first episode. This is super exciting.
Oh my gosh, it's happening.
I know, it's really happening. This podcast has been through so many iterations because it was like,
That's true.
I'm going to write a book. Or I guess it started with, I'm going to start a TikTok.
Oh, what's the TikTok?
And the TikTok was Unexpected Mango.
Yeah.
And the intention with Unexpected Mango was, I'm going to make a TikTok account that talks about everything that I'm learning as I'm coming out as a baby gay. And that took off in a very small way.
I know, because when we first started dating, you were like, don't find my TikTok. Don't look at my TikTok. So I didn't find your
I'm so, like, you respected it.
I really
did.
You
didn't.
No,
right?
I did not look at your TikTok.
You didn't.
No, I was like, okay, I will not look at your TikTok. It wasn't until much later that I looked at that. I finally was like, looked at your TikTok.
This is how I know you're a good one, is you respected my wishes. Because I was like, oh my God, I'm creating TikTok. We'll get into TikTok, but TikTok was like, it was a weird other world. Because I went from like, I'm gonna create everything that I'm gonna create videos about everything that I'm learning as I come out, and then somehow along the way I found myself making like cringy thirst traps.
As they all do. It's like the natural evolution of queer people on TikTok is at some point you find yourself in the thirst. Have you seen my very first and only thirst trap?
No.
I made it on iMovie. I didn't know.
Of course you did. What was this, 2013?
No, it was like 2022. I didn't put it on TikTok. I literally made it for somebody I was dating. I didn't even use TikTok. I used my phone. I put it on iMovie and I edited it on iMovie.
I need to see this.
Oh, okay, I'll have to show you.
I feel like this needs to be required viewing in your terms and conditions as your girlfriend.
Honestly, I was like, I think it was on my other computer, so I don't know if I lost it, which is the sad part. Because I had to get a whole new computer.
I have to find it.
It's probably somewhere still in iMovie.
What a flex. I made my first thirst trap on iMovie.
But in 2022. So like
the technology was there.
It's already there. I just like wasn't using it. Like I was like technically behind
I'm literally crying right now. That's insane. That's crazy.
I know.
Okay. Well, as a fellow cringy TikTok, I guess iMovie, cringy iMovie lesbian.
Yeah.
I went from like, I'm going to create a TikTok, and then TikTok was just overwhelming. And then I found myself, I was like doing a thirst trap, and then in the middle of it, I was like, what am I doing?
Oh my gosh, you had like an awakening.
Yeah, it was like,
like you became lucid.
Yes. I was like, oh my God, I took off the mask, and I was like, oh my God, this isn't why I'm here.
Whoa.
And then I stopped TikTok for a while. And then I was like, okay, I need to get back to why I started TikTok. And so then I started writing a book, which you're aware of.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of writing this journal.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, I'm going to make a blog. And I was going to call it The Art of Reawakening. Yeah. Remember you came in and I was like, what do you think about this? The Art of Reawakening blog. And you're like, Amanda, this too is cringy. Do you remember that?
Did I say that?
Yes.
Oh no.
You didn't say it like that, but you're like, Amanda, this is a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think people are going to take you seriously.
That's so funny. And now here we are.
I'm like, Jesus, reawakening.
Yeah.
Like,
you're like, nah.
And then I don't know, what was the moment where we were like, I was like sitting there and I was like, I think we sat down and you helped me come up with like 150 topics for my blog.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was like really excited, but when was it? Because I was like, I
know, I'm trying to think of like that moment of like, boom, the inciting incident. Yeah, the ding, a podcast.
I can't think about it. I can't remember.
Yeah, I just remember getting a text being like, would you be interested in doing a podcast with me?
Yeah, because I was talking with our friend Amanda about the podcast. Yeah. And the initial idea was, I'm going to be the host and then I'm going to bring in guests. Yeah. And then you know what it was? I was just laying in bed one day after hanging out with Amanda, a different Amanda. Not me.
Double
I
Amanda.
hung out with myself all the time, every day.
You're just like staring in a mirror.
Yeah.
You go, hey girl, how you doing?
Basically. Do you not?
No,
What do you think I'm doing talking to myself in the bathroom?
I love that you love your company that much.
I do. But no, I was like, you know what? Like Allison and I, we just literally will sit on the couch. This couch, we move this up. We move
Yeah,
this into
like
this
quite
room.
literally this couch.
This couch. We'd sit on the couch and we would have conversations about stuff I wanted to talk about on the blog.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you know what? Like you make me feel so safe. And you just have such a great presence that I feel like any conversations that I would have with guests, I would love you to be there.
See, I thought you were just using me for my body.
Yeah.
I know.
I was.
Surprise.
That too. You came with a bonus. That you have a great personality.
Surprise.
I think this podcast is really empowering for me. Having gone through my, like, I came out at 30.
Yeah.
And now it's been 3 years, 3.5 years. And I'm like, okay, I think I can like talk about this now.
Yeah.
And I felt really frustrated when I did come out because I was like, there are no resources out there. Like, I mean, there's TikTok, but we just talked about how what TikTok made me. And so I was like, I can't find any resources that will really help me figure out, like, am I a lesbian or am I pansexual? Like, how do I deal with my traumas? How do I deal with, like, who I am? How do I deal with the me that compulsory heterosexuality molded me into? And yeah, I don't know. I'm just really excited about this podcast because I feel like I can give back to past Amanda. And any other queer person that is still trying to figure themselves out.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that I was so knee deep in Jesus that like I was too afraid of the internet. So I didn't go to the internet. Like I didn't know where to go. I didn't know how, and I wasn't asking. So I think something like this was just so exciting when you pitched it, because I was like, oh, I think had I had that, like if I was able to Google like coming out resources and this sort of pop up, I think it would have made things a lot easier. Life changing. Yeah, game changing. I think it would have helped me like deconstruct so much faster. Yeah. And gentler. Yes. You know, rather than just sitting there trying things and being like, is Jesus going to kill me? Yeah. You know, and doing it that way.
It's so interesting, your journey with religion and queerness. Like, because I didn't have that. I had already left the church by the time I came out. But the fact that you were reconciling your queerness within the lens of, is Jesus going to literally like smite me if I kiss a girl? Like, I don't know. Yeah. That's crazy.
Wild.
Do you want to transition into our topic
I think
today?
This is a good transition.
Our very first topic.
This
is very exciting. So our topic today, we're going to be talking about, how do you even figure out you're queer? Yeah. Like, what are the signs? And yeah.
Which I feel is like the age-old question.
Yes.
It's like, am I
gay?
Yes.
I remember Googling that. Like,
you Googled it?
Oh, yeah.
I was too afraid to Google it.
Oh.
I was like, so scared. Yeah. Well, I was so scared. And I was like, I think, like, what if I get caught? Oh. Like, I was too afraid of the answer. Yeah. Which was probably my answer.
Which is probably, if you're questioning, okay, lesson number 1, if you're questioning that you're gay, you're probably a little bit on the spectrum.
And if you're worried that if you Google it and it says yes, because that will confirm something, you probably are.
You probably are. Okay, episode over. That's the only advice I have.
End of episode.
Well, it's interesting because I Googled, am I gay? Yeah. Back in probably, it was after college, but early 20s. And the first thing that I took was the Kinsey scale.
Oh my God.
Have you heard of it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I took it in this like girl's truck.
What?
Yeah, she was like trying to figure out if I wasn't out yet. I was like not out to myself specifically. I was like figuring it out.
Okay.
And yeah, I was in this girl's truck and she was, I think, trying to suss out where I was.
So instead of asking you, she was like,
no, yes. Never once did she say, hey, are you queer? She just said, hi, you should take you should take this test.
We were just slided over.
Yes. Yeah. Kind of. Like we were parked outside my apartment because I didn't have a car because I was in school. And so she drove me home and I took it in a car and it said I was straight.
Okay. Yes. Because Because the Kinsey scale is there's so much wrong with it.
Yes.
There are so many things that are wrong with all the quizzes you can take to see if you're queer.
Yeah.
Because the Kinsey scale is like, okay, who do you typically date?
Yeah.
And if you're closeted, you're like, well, if you're a closeted AFAB person, you're like, oh, well, I've been dating cis men.
Yeah.
And then they're like, who do you fantasize about sexually? And for me, I was like, well, men, because I thought I was supposed to.
Yeah, well, and for me, it was no one.
Yes!
No one. I did not view myself as a sexual being at all. I still had a purity ring.
You had a purity ring?
I had a purity ring. I had a purity ring until I finally left Washington.
I thought purity rings were like something that, oh, that's a promise ring.
Yeah.
Something that like somebody
Well,
gives
the purity ring is the promise to your dad and Jesus.
Oh my God.
Kind of.
To your dad and Jesus. That's so creepy.
There are whole churches that have like a dad ceremony for like their daughter's purity.
Ooh.
Yeah, we didn't do that. But when you turn 16, like all of my sisters and I got purity rings.
Okay, and they talk about like homosexuals being groomers. That's freaking weird.
It's super strange.
It's super creepy.
We didn't do that, but yeah, I had a purity ring. I was having no sexual fantasies.
And so you're like, I am holy.
Yes, I was like, I'm closer to heaven. But so that test was hard because like, who do you have fantasies about? And I was like,
no one.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then it's like, okay, who do you have fantasies about? Who are you dating? And who do you want to date? And it's just like, if you're questioning, you're like, well, I don't know any of these questions. And how does this relate to my queerness?
Yeah. Or like one of the questions on there, if I remember right, is like, are you friends with mostly guys or mostly girls?
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, how does that relate?
Yes.
To anything?
Yeah.
And I think I answered at the time I was friends with mostly like women.
Yeah.
Like AFAB, like cisgendered women.
Yeah.
And I got that I was straight.
See, yeah, I got heterosexual, but incidentally homosexual.
Which is just so funny because it feels like you're walking down the street and you tripped into like being gay for a moment, like into being queer. And then you're like, oh, like shook that off.
Oh, damn. I just ran into you. You're my incidental.
Yeah, I'm your incidental.
Whoopsies. Suddenly I'm in a relationship.
Whoopsie-daisies.
How does this happen?
And also like incidental queerness makes it seem like it's not within your agency.
Yeah, this is true.
Like it just like suddenly.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, you just like
it's like oopsies.
Yeah, whoops.
Well, it's interesting because in college there was a point in my life where I had made out with more women than men. I was going around. I would get drunk in this in this really shitty bar in Pullman, Washington.
Oh my gosh.
It was like the bar that you went to like after 2 a.m. Like you're beyond drunk. Yeah. And I would just go out there, and I remember this one night I made out with like 5 different girls back to back to back. And I don't know what I was thinking, because I wasn't doing for the attention of men. I was just there, and I was like, oh, I want to kiss her. I'm gonna do it. Oh, I want to kiss her too.
Oh my goodness.
And then some other girl, like I didn't come on to all 5 of them. Some of them came out to me, and I was just like, sure.
And everyone's like, we are straight.
We are straight. But that was the like rhetoric which I grew up in. I remember having conversations in high school with my boyfriends being like, I'm so jealous that you get to date me. Like, I'm so jealous that you get to date a girl. That's me. Like, I want to date a girl, or I wish I was a guy. I don't think I said I want to date a girl. I just said I wish I was a guy. And my boyfriends would be like, yeah, that's a really good point.
They were like, yeah, true story, bro.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool being me right now.
Yes. They wouldn't be like, I think maybe you're queer.
Wow.
Like, nobody had language for that, at least in Spokane, Washington.
No, I mean, growing up, I had no concept of queerness. So I would just be a boy in Club Penguin, and I had girlfriends, but I thought that was just
can you explain to me what Club Penguin is?
It blows my mind that you don't know what Club Penguin is. Like for somebody so sheltered as me, I didn't have cable. We had like Disney movies, but yet I had Club Penguin. So Club Penguin, you're like an internet penguin. You're a literal penguin.
Okay.
You create like a penguin avatar, and you roam this penguin world, and you can like chat with other penguins. You can like build a house. And so I had like penguin girlfriends. My penguin was Peter. I really liked that name. I thought it was a good name.
It's a pretty cute name.
It's a pretty cute name. Peter the Penguin.
So were these other penguins like other people too?
Oh yeah, people from all over the country.
You know what would be the craziest story is you put it out on the internet, and then I don't know. Do you remember any of their names?
No, I don't.
You dated? Okay.
I don't. I wish I did. I was so young. I was probably like 11, 12.
Finding your long lost girlfriend. Oh, that was young. Okay, maybe we don't.
Yeah. And I had a girlfriend that we ended up Skyping. Yeah, we Skyped. We were the same age.
How did you, if you were a boy, were you like, hey?
No, I turned off my camera and my audio. I was like, sorry, it's all broken. And I remember we were the same age. And I remember she was like showing me like her kitten. She had a kitten.
She had her video on though?
She had her video on and her audio on. And I just remember sitting in like my basement and being like, I can't believe this is happening. And then I got like really, really scared. And I would just like, I am. And then I like never spoke to her again.
Wow.
So I was like, I'm going to get found out.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy that you like, you're like, let's get on Skype, but I'm not going to Skype. I'm just going to DM.
Yeah. Oh, I was so afraid of being found out.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I was like, if I was convinced I would make a great boyfriend.
The original catfish.
Allison
It's Club Catfish.
Were you catfishing people?
At 11.
At a very young age? You might be queer.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah. So I understand. Like there's no way to even tie that into queerness.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like in this discussion of the faults of the Kinsey scale, like there's no way a quiz can just tell you if you're queer.
Yeah.
Because like you had this amazing, not amazing, but like you had this very solid, concrete, I wanted to be a boy in Club Penguin to have a girlfriend. And I had this like, I'm jealous of boys because they get to date girls. But there was like no explanation that this is queer. It's just like something that we're experimenting with.
Yeah. Or to me, it felt like role play.
Yeah.
Because I knew like boy with girl.
Yeah.
Well, me, not boy. So I will never in real life be with girl.
Yeah.
But here, I could be boy.
Mm-hmm.
So I could be with girl.
Yeah.
And I feel like that as like simple as like it kind of boiled down to.
Yeah.
But I had no way to conceptualize. And yeah, and that wasn't on the Kinsey scale.
No.
Did you pretend to be a boy in Club Penguin and date and have girlfriends? It should be.
We should contact them.
Yeah, we should be like, you need to add some things in here.
But I mean, it's crazy because even if you go into like, oh, I'm going to search for other things that's beyond sex, which is hard to find.
Yeah.
Like I remember I was like, am I a lesbian into Google? And then, you know, you can like click on the questions and it'll expand and then it'll pull up more questions and you kind of go down that rabbit hole. I think I only clicked on like 3 questions.
I do that when I have a cold. It's like, yes. Do I have a cold? Is my nose running? You have terminal cancer.
Do I have cancer? Yes.
And I'm like, you're right, I am dying. I am.
But I mean, it was interesting because I was like, am I a lesbian? Blah, 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 blah. And then suddenly it goes like symptoms of lesbianism. And I'm like, what? And it's like heart disease. Oh. It's alcoholism. It's depression, anxiety. And I'm like, what is the language and the story that the internet is building around questioning queer people?
Yeah, you just got WebMD'd.
Yes.
About lesbianism. Like, it's like, you will die.
Yes.
That, yeah.
It's like an identity, but it's like the reality is you can't say that a symptom, like a health symptom, is due to an identity. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, that's for the longest time they thought being queer was a mental illness.
That's true.
Which is like...
That's a really good point.
Yeah. I mean, people right now even think transness is still a mental illness.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Which is just insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm just like, it just baffles me how there isn't better resources built by queer people.
Well, because I mean, like, I came out after the lesbian master doc.
Oh, yeah, same.
After it.
But I didn't read it.
No, before it. I'm so sorry. I came out before the lesbian master doc.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Whoops. Got that backwards. Yeah. Before. So, like, that wasn't a resource.
Yeah.
Either. But you came out after.
I came out after, but I knew of it, but I didn't really read it.
Yeah.
Like, when I came out, people were like, read the lesbian master doc, read the lesbian master doc. But I was like, I don't know. I just didn't think I had time to read it. But like, we read it. We read it in preparation for this podcast, and it's pretty amazing.
I think I wish I had read it.
Yes, same. Because I mean, I think it's helping me now. Because even just like, I think it's an ongoing discussion in our relationship where I'll wake up and I'll be like, I'm a lesbian, and then I'll go to like, you know, the next day I'm like, wait, maybe I might be pansexual because I dated men, and you're just like, whatever you want, babe.
Yeah,
like,
I'm like, sexuality is fluid.
Yeah. But I mean, it's interesting because reading the lesbian master doc, I'm like, oh, I'm a lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because my pansexuality, the thought of being pansexual, which is obviously I'm in support of, right? I'm not saying if you're a pansexual, you're probably a lesbian.
Yeah.
But for me personally, my pansexuality, the only reason why I was like open to that was like, I was like, oh, I like the idea. I think like I'll read like Fourth Wing, you know, or like these books that have like these like super masculine like bat boys from that guitar.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, that's kind of nice. But then in the lesbian master doc, they're like, oh, that's okay, because if you like the idea or like a fantasy of a man, like that doesn't mean you're not a lesbian. It just means that you like the story, you know, you like a character.
Mm-hmm.
Or like I'll be in the gym. Like I remember before we met, I was in the gym. I actually made a TikTok about this, but I was in the gym and this guy walked in and he looked like a whole ass Viking. Like braided hair, like super buff, beard. He looks like a whole ass Viking. And I was like, really good job, dude.
Yeah.
Like really good job.
Yeah. I mean, he learned to braid and everything.
Yeah. You learn things. No, but I was like, what an attractive guy. And then I was like, oh, does this mean I'm not a lesbian? Oh my God, what do I do? And I was freaking out in that moment. And then I was like, you know what, Amanda? Like, it's okay. I think that appreciating a beautiful person is appreciating a beautiful person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's great, because that's what the doc kind of talks about.
Exactly.
Is that, you know, like you can have like an aesthetic appreciation for it. You know, because I grew up only around, you know, dating guys. That was the only option. And so I would have these like great ideas about them. And then when I started dating them, I'd be like, you are a colossal disappointment to me. Yeah. I'm like, you are disappointing, and I have to recraft you into a better image.
Oh my God.
And so I was like, I was the idea of them. And then I remember when I started having like feelings that I was able to like consciously acknowledge for someone, I realized that I was like, oh, I like not only the idea of you, but the reality of you in like any form that takes. And then when I was reflecting back on like my dating life with men, I was like, I did not like the reality of them, period. And some of them were incredible people. And I was like, yuck, disappointing to me. But then with this person, I was like, any version of you, I'm already into.
And that person was a girlfriend or?
Classic story. It was like a very close friend of mine.
Okay, tell me more.
Yeah, well, it was just this person that I'd become really close with in undergrad. We just like just became like best friends, and it was a very intense friendship. Okay. And that was like, I was like, wait a second, like something is very different here.
Like you're like, I feel feelings.
Yeah, I felt feelings in a way that I was unable to feel with men. Like I had never like felt like butterflies, like that felt positive.
Oh.
I used to I wrote a lot. Even as a kid, I wrote like fantasy, like romance novels.
I love this.
Oh yeah, I was like super into it. But I remember being like, I hate the feeling of butterflies in my stomach. They should go and die. No one should have butterflies.
That's intense.
Oh yeah, I was like, I had just had these like really strong feelings about them, because what I wasn't able to identify was that the butterflies that I was having with men was my whole body being like, this feels awful to me.
It's anxiety.
It's fear. Yeah. And it was like, just like my body not wanting it. But then I saw this person for the first time, and the butterflies I had like lit my soul up.
That's so interesting.
I was like, I feel alive. I feel lighter. I feel like I can breathe, and I'm excited.
Wow.
And I was like, something is different here.
So then what happened with that friendship?
We stayed friends for like a long time, and then I just moved and we fell out. We never dated.
Wow.
We never even kissed.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you're like, you were my awakening.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there was one time we held hands for a full day.
And it
as like
was
a dare,
friendship.
and we were like friends.
Oh my God, what?
And I think like, you know, now like looking back, there's just so much deconstruction I was doing.
Yeah.
You know, that I needed to continue to do. So even had an acknowledgement been made, I would not have made a good partner because I needed to do all that work and that healing on my own.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just kind of being that.
Damn.
I know.
Yeah, it's super interesting when you were talking about butterflies. It made me think about, I actually, so I came out at 30, but I actually, besides kissing all the women in college, and I actually went on dates. I set my Tinder to women and I started going on dates. I went on, I think, 3 dates when I lived in Santa Barbara with these women. And what I did is I put on my Tinder and I was like, I am bi-curious. I want to explore if I'm attracted to women. And I matched with people who had the kind of the same thing in their profile. And so I actually really encourage that approach for people who are questioning.
That is the bravest approach I have ever heard in my entire life.
Well,
that's so brave.
Yeah, what I mean, it was like easy because there's just this big stigma, which I didn't know of until I moved to Austin and like fully came out. But there's this big stigma around like bi-curious people using lesbians to figure out if they're queer.
Yeah, well, that's like rooted in biphobia.
Exactly.
This fear of being the experiment.
Yes.
When really everyone deserves the space to like figure out who they are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But because I put in my profile, I was like, I'm bi-curious. I would like to go on some dates. This, like, I just laid it all out there.
Amazing.
And then people didn't match with me if that's not the journey they wanted to go on with me. But I matched with these 3 women, and they were like, yeah, I'm questioning too. I would love to go on a date. And so I ended up going on these dates. I went to sushi with one. I went on a hike with another, and I forget the other one. But I remember going to my best friend, Christian, and he was like, so, like, what do you think? And I was like, I think I'm straight. I think I'm straight because the reason was butterflies. I was like, oh, I was too comfortable on these dates. I didn't have butterflies, which my butterflies when going on dates with men was anxiety.
Yep.
I was so nervous and so uncomfortable, but I took that as I actually care. Whereas when I was on dates with these women, my body was relaxed, the conversation flowed, and I was like, oh, this is just friends.
Well, and there's that whole saying that, right? Like, if you're nervous, it's because you care.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And yeah, I remember like when I met you, do you remember? I was like, you make me feel quiet.
Yeah.
And
I know. I cried when you said that.
And that's like a big
tear.
I know, a whole tear fell. But that's like a big thing that I had to learn was that's actually my body. That's the butterflies.
Yes.
You know, was this sense of peace and tranquility and like presence and aliveness versus like, oh my God, am I going to be stuck with you for my whole life? Because when I was growing up dating, it was date to marry.
Yep.
So then I looked at every single partner as, I'm going to marry you.
Mm-hmm.
And can I handle that?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that's what my mom told me. Like, I guess there's a stigma around this word serial monogamous, but I heard it and I was like, that is what I did. I dated guy after guy after guy after guy. I was rarely single because my mom was like, you just have to find the right guy. And every time you date somebody, that gets you closer to finding the right guy. You need to build this list of qualities. And it was funny when I came out, I looked at my list of qualities that I'd been building over the last like 2 decades. And I realized like on this list was things like doesn't think that I am below them, isn't misogynistic, doesn't like hurt me violently. You know what I mean? Like all of these things that I was like, wow, Amanda, like, and I looked at that list and there was a couple of really nice things on there too. But I remember looking at that list when I was closeted and being like, this is too much to ask of a man. Like, I don't know how to do this. And then when I came out and I was like, oh my God, like these aren't even things I'm going to consider because this is just obvious.
Yeah.
You know?
Those things transcend any sex and gender.
Exactly.
That's like you must be a good human being.
Yes.
Yeah. But yet those are like what we look for, or like at least like what some of us may have been conditioned to look for in men, and only those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting because I was just dating so much.
Yeah.
And like something else that was really fascinating to deconstruct after I came out was I had a lot of sex. It was interesting looking at my high sex drive with men because I realized in looking back, I was using sex as a crutch for connection. And when I came out of the closet and started dating women, I realized that there are so many ways to connect. There are so many ways to feel intimacy that I didn't feel obligated to have sex like 2-3 times a day, you know, as a crutch for connection. Yeah. And so I feel like my sex drive really leveled out, especially as I like did the work to like deconstruct the trauma of sex and get into a really healthy relationship with sex.
Yeah, I think so much of like, again, even at the beginning of finding out that we're queer, it hinges on how much sex are you having, who are you having sex with. And as you just said, that wasn't necessarily the case with you while you were having sex with cis men, because that was the only way you knew how to connect with them. And then once you found more modes of connection that felt better, I'm guessing, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Not better, but just like equivalent.
Yeah. Then your sex drive changed.
Yes.
That's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, we should have a whole podcast episode on that.
We should.
On like how our sex drives change and adapt.
Agreed.
Because I feel like that's something that I'm still learning.
So we have the Kinsey scale, but like, what are some other ways,
like early signs
of queerness,
or just signs? And I guess they're all early if you're not out.
If you're not out.
So like, what signs? Are there?
I mean, I think it's like, what was it for you?
Mine, I like, when I look back, I mean, I did fall into the category of very intense female friendships. Like, and I think reflecting back, especially, I had one in high school that was like very, just like a very strong friendship, like feelings on my end. And I realized that it was because I was stepping into like a caretaker role. Like, I suddenly felt like this is the person that I'm gonna help take care of and support and nurture, that I can now identify as a way that a partner would.
Yeah.
You know, more than how a friend would.
Interesting.
And so I think that was a little earlier. And it was much easier for me to be friends, funny enough, with the boys in my life. It was so much more chill. The biggest stress was that they were going to want to date me. Yeah. And that felt like a threat to my autonomy.
Yes.
And so I was like, I don't know if I can be friends with boys, but I like didn't have any attraction really towards them. I would like imagine, because that's all I was given as an option. Yeah. But yeah, so I fell into the category of very strong female friendships. Yeah.
I mean, as someone who had the opposite, like, it's interesting because I did end up dating guys, and I did end up like feeling like I was in love. But it's curious because now I'm looking back and I'm like, okay, then what was that for me? And with some like hindsight, or hindsight, not foresight.
No, hindsight, definitely.
I'm kind of like, I think the thing that I wanted more than anything was to be loved. Yeah. And from a very young age, I was indoctrinated into this concept that in order to find love and purpose as a woman, you needed to find a man who would love you. And I found myself settling for these guys that some of them were really lovely. Some of them were so lovely. And I remember like being with them and being like, why don't I feel anything for you? Yeah. Like, I remember I broke up with this one guy who was a total sweetheart. He was just so sweet to me. And I remember after we broke up just crying, just being like, why can't I feel anything for anyone? Like, I thought there was something wrong with me. But like the thought of having a relationship and inevitable marriage with a man where I would have to give up my career, change my personality, become a good wife, was just so like, it was so daunting and terrifying to me. And so I think that's probably a queer indicator too, is like, do heterosexual cisgendered norms and things, like, does it like, do you hate them?
Yeah. How does your body respond to them?
How does your body respond? That's, you know what? I think that is the thesis that I want to give out, is like, if you are questioning if you're queer, look to your body. Yeah. Like, how do you feel around queer people? How do you feel around heterosexual people? Both platonically and romantically and sexually and emotionally. You know, like, pay attention to what, not like what butterflies we were talking about earlier. Yeah. Not who gives you butterflies, because that could be anxiety. Who knows what those butterflies are?
Because first you have to identify what your butterflies are.
Yeah. But like, who makes you feel calm?
Yeah.
Who makes your mind settle?
Yeah.
Who makes you feel so safe to express how you're feeling?
Yeah.
And you know, that can be beyond gender, but even beyond gender is still beyond heteronormativity.
Yeah.
And cis normativity.
Yeah. I think for like little Christian Allison, even listening to my body, I think looking back, I'm able to identify that. But I think in the height of it, I think everything scared me.
Yeah.
Because the idea of going away from the norm was also terrifying, though a little bit better, but still terrifying. And I think what I would have told like little Allison is like, imagine your life and you're anybody you want to be. What is that? And it can fit within the norms that have been presented. So I think you would have been like Allison. I would have been a husband with a wife. And I think that would have been probably my earliest indicator. Is like, okay, well, let's take a look at this. And now you can deconstruct. Okay, well, what if you didn't have to fall into this, you know, being a cisgendered male, because you just will never be a cisgendered male. And you can just have a wife as you are. And then how would that make you feel? I think it's like tapping into that imagination.
Yeah.
Paint your life however you want it to be, even if it's within the confines of what you have, and then look at it that way.
Yeah. And I think like removing gender and removing norms from that, right? Yeah. So like if you want to be the husband, like you always imagined yourself as the husband, like, okay, now imagine yourself, like what role is that? You know, like who are you? And can this reality exist in whatever you want, right? Yeah. I'm actually curious, as kind of a segue. So we've talked a lot about, I wanted to be the husband, I wanted to be the head of the household. Like, how do you know, like, did you think about, am I trans? Like, am I a trans man?
In the early aughts of my deconstruction, yeah, there was like a little bit of gender conversation there, to where I was like, oh no, like I didn't want to step into manhood. I didn't want to become a man. What I wanted was the freedom to decide my own life. And I wanted the freedom to decide what rules and roles I was making. And it was less about my gender expression. I would always say, like, it really frustrated me to feel like somebody was putting me in a box. I was frustrated that I was in the girlhood box, that I was in youth groups and they were telling me how to be a girl, that I was in, you know, Bible studies telling me how to be a girl, that I was living in society that was telling me how to be, and that I had to also be a girl or this or that, when I just wanted to be Allison, non-binary. Like, right, I just wanted to be Allison. That was the thing. I was like, no, I don't want to fall into anybody's label, because I don't feel like I fit in any label. I don't fit in this box. I don't like this box. I don't fit in that box. I don't like that box. I just want to be able to make my own life completely.
Yeah. And I think that goes for everybody, right? If you're a trans man and you don't want to fit into the, you know, like, you can redefine what manhood is.
100%.
You can redefine what non-binary is. You can redefine what womanhood is. And I think that's the beautiful thing of being queer. Yeah. Is we get to create a life that is beyond our wildest imaginations. Like, we get to create a life that allows us to be happy exactly as we want. You know, we're challenging the patriarchy. We're challenging cisgendered norms. We're challenging all of these things. You know what I mean? And I really value that about the queer community. Yeah, absolutely. Stepping into my queerness made me realize that I got to make the decisions on my own life based on myself, not on the Bible. Yep. And that was like revolutionary. Yeah. Especially once I learned that God was not going to smite me out of the sky. Right? When I was like, I can survive it and it can actually be beautiful and wonderful. Yeah, I think that's the beautiful thing about queerness. Yeah. And mine was like, my queerness allowed me to take back the control over my life from men. Because even when I was thinking that I was bisexual, I was asking my boyfriends permission to go sleep with women. And they all said no. Well, I said, do you want to have a threesome with another woman? And they'd be like, no. And which is wild, because you think... I got so mad at them. I was like, isn't this your dream? I thought this was every, like, cis-het man's dream, is to have a threesome with two women. And I really, like, I'm going to put words in these guys' mouths. It'd be so funny if they were listening to this. But, like, I'm so curious, especially with one of them, if he knew I was queer and he thought that he would lose me to a girl. He was like, I don't think we'd come out of this. Yeah, exactly. Alive. Wow. Advice for little Amanda. I think not little Amanda, but like the Amanda who is questioning of like, who am I? Am I queer? The Amanda who just slept with a woman for the first time and was freaking out because what does it mean? I think it's just like, just do it. I think there's no harm in putting yourself out there. And I'm really proud of the Amanda that changed her dating app profile to women and saying, I'm experimenting. I want to see. I want to see what I am. I'm really proud of her for just going and doing it. And I think the advice that I would give her is to, yeah, like I said, take your agency back from men and own your life more. Like, deconstruct the patriarchy's hold on dictating how your future is going to be.
Yeah.
And make time to think about what you want it to be as yourself. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Essentially just break the mold of the patriarchy.
Yeah.
Is what I'm hearing.
Which is a big task.
You are the deciding factor in who you are.
Yeah.
Not anybody else.
Yeah, because I think I was so caught up in am I going to be a good woman? Like, I thought that the reason why I didn't like men, or like, it's not that I didn't like them, it's like I wasn't finding fulfillment in my relationships in the kind of ways that I wanted, was because I was broken. I was broken as a woman. And not, oh, there's a different way of living that I don't have to mold myself to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah, I feel like I would look at little Allison and I think I would literally have to be like, God does not hate you and you will not die from this. Because that was just so much of the ideology, was that sin equals death. And I was like, well, I would like to live. I would like to not die. And so I would be like, you're not going to die. God does not hate you. There will be no punishment from this. So it's okay to start exploring. It's okay to start asking questions. It's okay to, for those you feel safe with, ask, talk. Because I introverted. I went right to the inside and I was like, I'm going to figure this out in silence on my own, in solitude. Because if I'm going down, I'm not going to bring anybody with me. Right. And so I think, yeah, the advice I would give is that, like, if you're really stuck in, or just, you know, trying to balance like the religion aspect, or if you're in the middle of all that, is like, it's not going to kill you. This is not against the Bible. It's okay to start asking. It's okay to start exploring. It's okay to start researching and to start kind of like diving in. And then it's okay to start trying. Yeah, but that can be hard to get there. So I think at the beginning, it's okay to start asking.
Yes. And if you're more like me, if you're a listener who's more like me and resonates with like my story, I think then it's the opposite. It's okay to turn inside to find answers. Because even when I was questioning, I was Googling, I was going to TikTok, I was going to everything else besides asking myself, is it okay to be queer? Are you queer? I was like, somebody tell me if I'm queer or not.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, listening to your body would be the number one piece of advice that I would give.
Yeah.
All right. Should we segue into the last part of our podcast?
We should.
So after every episode, we're going to surprise each other with Sapphic fun facts.
Yay.
So I don't actually know what yours is.
No.
And so
I don't know what yours is.
Yep.
Surprise.
Okay. Sapphic fun fact of the day.
Oh gosh, I gotta pull up my phone. Okay.
I can start if you want to pull yours up.
Yeah, go do it.
So did you know that the entire species of the dwarf chimpanzee is bisexual?
I did not know this.
The entire species.
The whole
species? The entire species. So I guess
incredible.
Homosexuality, it says here, homosexuality has been observed within 1,500 animal species globally.
Yes, the gay penguins.
The gay penguins? Yes.
Okay.
Don't cancel me for this. And this also goes back to what I said earlier. But I really think that everybody, I think just as a mammal, we have the capacity to love and have sex with whoever we want, which makes everybody a little bit queer.
Hey, I think what a beautiful world if everyone's able to accept that.
Be more like the dwarf chimpanzee.
Be more like the dwarf chimpanzees. Just, understand that you are fluid. You're fluid. Yes. Everyone's fluid.
Everybody's fluid.
I'm saying. Or at least has the capacity to be so. Okay. Mine is Elsa Gidlow. I may have pronounced that wrong. I don't know. A freelance journalist and philosopher wrote On a Gay Thread in 1923. Which was considered the first volume of open lesbian love poetry published in the United States.
Wow.
In 1923.
She had the ovaries to do that. That's crazy.
I know. She really was like 1923, a whole book, open lesbian love.
Okay, and that's so interesting because in today's like political landscape, whatever you want to call it, people are like, oh, lesbianism and queerness is such this new thing that's happening.
Not at all.
It's not new at all.
No, it's been happening since the beginning.
Since the beginning of time.
Yep.
Literally, I was reading, actually, you were there. We were reading the LGBTQ history book.
It's literally right behind me.
It's literally right behind you. Yeah, we were out by the lake reading this book, and it said that the queer community didn't actually exist. Bonus Sapphic fact of the day. The queer community didn't even exist.
Yeah.
Back before like Europe colonized Christianity colonized like the world and made sodomy.
Yeah. It's not that they didn't exist, it's that it was such a normal part of life that they didn't have a label.
Thank you. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
But like they didn't have a label because it was just so normal.
Yeah.
So no one was like, oh, that's a queer person.
Yeah. They were like, oh, that's a person.
You know, oh, those are two people who are in love instead of those are two gay men or two lesbians, you know?
Yeah. They were just like, oh, that's John and Joe.
Yes. And even gender.
Yeah.
No one was like, oh, that's a trans man. It was just a person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and many cultures and societies worshipped.
Yes.
You know, people beyond the binary.
That's so, yes, exactly. They
Yeah,
were
they were
known
seen
as
holier.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, we should go back to that.
Yeah. Bring it back.
Bring it back. And I think that's a really good place to wrap up this episode.
Yeah,
our very first one.
Our very first one.
Very exciting.
Yay.
We did it.
We did
Thank you so much for listening.
Yay.
This was so fun. We're really excited to bring you a lot more content, a lot more questions and answers.
So many questions.
So many.
Yay.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. See you next time.
Thanks for tuning in.
Be sure to subscribe, follow us on social media,
And share episodes with your friends.
see you next time.